Hey everybody, it's Jester James here in my castle, aka my bedroom, because of coronavirus. But I wanted to talk to you about something near and dear and special to me that I've only recently started to really get into and dig into because I only learned about it a couple years ago. Now, ACT is something important, and I believe that people can really have a lot of value from it, not because they need therapy, because the word therapy seems to have a little bit of a stigma. So when, at least in my house, if I told my parents I went to therapy, they'd be like, "Are you nuts?" And I'd be like, "Yes, that's why I went there." But anywho, reason why I want to talk about ACT is because a lot of today's society, not just myself, but even other folks that I see, there's a lot of mental chatter in our heads. And my counselor, Isabella, that I originally met, she had given something important to me that really details my own struggle. And that's actually right here. So let's go take a look at that. So that's this photo frame over here. And it says clarity. It says, stopping to listen to my inner self, I can easily separate my intuition from my mental chatter. The clarity of my intuition is a sweet, simple fruit that tastes familiar, and the mental chatter is a confusing, bitter rind that I shall peel off and chuck into the garbage, or compost heap if your mental chatter happens to be organic. So, the key component of ACT for me, at least today, is going to be the choice point, and I'll be going over with that with y'all a little bit more in detail right over there. If you want to pan that, fam. Yeah, we'll get there. Come back. Thanks. So, let me just read a little bit from the book so I don't go crazy, but I want to make sure that I do it justice. But some of the things that ACT can help is it helps clarify what's truly important and meaningful to us. That is, clarify our values and use that knowledge to guide, inspire, and motivate us to do those things that will enrich and enhance our life. It teaches us psychological skills such as diffusion, mindfulness, and a bunch of other nice prime buzzwords that I'm not going to go over. And I genuinely think I said "and" again so much, didn't I? I'll fix that. I'm working on my presentation skills. As a consultant, I know how badly that is. But again, this is only video number 3, so we'll improve. Anyhow, this is ACT. The book's ACT Made Simple by Russ Harris. Again, not a sponsor by any means. I don't even have enough subscribers or views for that, but this is just something important to me that I think people, other than myself, can really take advantage of and take something from it, and I want to move the conversation forward for my generation of Zoomers and maybe some of the Boomers too. So, let's go to the computer screen. What up, everybody? Now you're listening to KC 101 on iHeartRadio. Just kidding. Alright, so I'm behind the screen now on the mic, and I just wanted to, let's just dive in. So on ACT, there's 6 core processes that's included in what's lightheartedly called the ACT Hexaflex. And as you can see, what's on the screen is not a hexagon, but a triangle. But the hexaflex is a lot better in encompassing it because the hexagon is the bestagon. But drill down, you can truncate it into a triflex or a triangle here, and you'll see the 3 functional units of ACT and acceptance and commitment therapy. And that is self as context, aka the noticing self. And that's really, when you start to think of it, in your mind, right, you have your thoughts, but you can step away from those thoughts in themselves, and that's like a level of consciousness, and you're like, oh, okay, so I'm thinking this. I know I'm thinking this. Why am I thinking about this? And in ACT, they call this the noticing self, and you're able to notice these things. So self is context, sorry, is really just the noticing self, and that's contacting the present moment, which involves flexibly paying attention to and engaging in the here and now experience. In other words, be present, which is right there. So diffusion acceptance are about separating from your thoughts and feelings and seeing them for what they truly are, making room for them, allow them to come and go on their own accord. Because let's be real, it's not like we're gonna solve all our problems, or we're not doing that. We can't cut a portion of our brains away. It's actually funny because Isabella, who was my counselor, she's wonderful. Genuinely, I just think it's hilarious just seeing myself back in the day. But I genuinely was like, I gotta cut this out. I gotta stop. This is ridiculous. I need to stop everything that is causing me from having these thoughts, and I'll never have these thoughts ever again, and that's that. But that's not true. That's not realistic, because we're human, and these things tend to happen, and they come back. They come back. You can't get rid of something, because as a human, we have our thoughts. We have a memory, even like nostalgia, for example. You feel nostalgia and you rush back to those memories and emotions of those times, for example. But diffusion and acceptance is really about separating from the thoughts and feelings and seeing them for what they truly are. And that's just that. Their thoughts, their emotions, their feelings. And next you got values, and committed action involve initiating and sustaining life-enhancing action. So, like, you do what matters, basically. So, we can basically describe psychological flexibility as the ability to be present, open up, and do what matters. Be present, open up, do what matters. And that leads us to the choice point, which I'll get to. So, actually, let's go here first. So the choice point. This is the choice point. You have the situations, thoughts, or the feelings of your current moment. You've got actions that you can you have the choices that you can make that either make you move towards a goal or away from the goal. And when we take it from the layer and we look at that fundamentally, we tend to think of the way we have feelings, and we think of it in a way in ACT, we think of it as being hooked or unhooked. So let's say, for example, I like I like a girl, for example, and I want to go and talk to her, but I'm a chicken, for example. So let's say, flashback to 2019, I'm out to Three Needs at the bar with my friend Chris, and there's a girl at the edge of the bar, and I can't talk to her because I have social anxiety, or it's my thoughts. It's me. I don't want to use any, like, terms like social anxiety or anything, because I don't want to offend anybody or mean any disrespect. So instead, I'm just going to say, I'm fighting my own intuition, my own thoughts. I have mental chatter. So in the moment, I've got my thoughts and my feelings that are challenging me. But it's not the thoughts and the feelings that are preventing you from doing anything. They're just that. It's thoughts and feelings. And that's diffusion. And that's where did the Firefox go? That's here. That's diffusion. And the biggest portion, the easiest part of this is really just being present, and that's just contacting yourself in the present moment like you're doing at the bar and acknowledging those thoughts. So I've acknowledged them, and I'm accepting them for what they are, and now I've gotten to the point where I can either get hooked or unhooked on my thoughts. So to be still hooked on my thoughts, I'm going to let them run rampant in my mind. They're going to imagine all the terrible things that could happen. I can go and trip, spill my beer on her, or anything wild or crazy that is just not realistic in the real world. Anybody who knows me, I am not too klutzy. I'm not about to go and trip over myself. I mean, I'm not to say that I won't, but it's not as frequent of an occurrence that my brain needs to go and say, "Oh my God, this is terrible." But all right, so instead, we're gonna unhook from our thoughts and feelings in the situation, and we're gonna think, okay, what are the actions that we can do to move towards the goal and go up and talk to her. So I'm gonna unhook from my thoughts and I'm gonna say, let's fight that. So for me, I have this thing where I'm like, in my past life, I swear I was probably like a soldier or something, where I'll go and battle myself, but then at the end of the day, I'm just a fighter. I will fight. So I'm gonna fight myself. I'm gonna go to war with my own thoughts. But essentially, I'm gonna say, "Oh, I'm ugly. I'm hideous. La 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 la. All these bad things." Instead, for me, I'm gonna diffuse. I'm gonna say, "No, that's not true." I'm gonna unhook myself from these bad thoughts by, for me, for example. And the beauty of this is that it's different for everybody, but the core concepts are there. So, like, I'm giving y'all an example, and the example's, like, funny, memey, it's gestury, like, it's really stupid, but I'm just trying my best here. I'm not a doctor, again, disclaimer, I'm just trying to move the conversation forward. I'm not a psychologist by any means. But unhooking from the thoughts, for me, I'm going to think of my sister. She likes to make the joke all the time about, "You're not ugly, you look like a snack." And that's just hilarious to me. Like, it's absurd. So, to me, I just hear my sister's voice in my head just telling myself that you look like a snack. And you build confidence from that, and you're able to fight your own bad thoughts, and you gain enough confidence to go and do action. You move towards your goal because you're unhooked. And that's essentially what the choice point does for you. It gives you the choice, and it allows you to do what you want to do. Again, I'm definitely not doing any of these things justice, because I mean, I showed the book. It's a decent book. Everybody should go and read it if you're interested in it. But again, I'm just moving the conversation forward. So with all of this, it gives you the choice, which is a lot. It's so awesome, because a lot of these self-help books I've read so many different, like, classic self-help books, from like Think and Grow Rich, No Excuses by like Brian Tracy, and all these different things, and they're all essentially one prime component of these self-help books is the concept of self-discipline, but yourself. And you've got all the different things like the law of attraction, and essentially they distill down to the choice point and yourself. And at the end of the day, it's you, your own thoughts, you're in your own head and everything like that. And the choice point really distills that down in a way that it makes you able to leverage that. And that's why I'm making the video for it, because it's such an awesome thing. So here we have away towards choice point, situated thoughts and feelings, hooked, unhooked. So it's called the choice point because you bust out your choice point index card. So I have a friend that I did an activity with, and I essentially detailed the choice point to him in person, and I wrote it down on an index card, and I told him, so when you have these bad thoughts or these bad feelings, or you're in a bad situation and you're you're looping, you're in a cognitive thought loop, for example, and you're in your head and it's not good, not productive, it's just bad, you feel bad and all that. I told him, I want you to pull this index card out and I want you to diffuse from the situation, and I want you to see things for what they really are, and I want you to categorize your thoughts and your feelings and your actions even into these two binary hooked and unhooked categories. So what are you doing that's moving away? What are you moving from towards? Everything that I basically just covered. And that's why it's called the choice point, because it allows you to get to the choice point to it. So when you feel like you don't have a choice, but you bust out the index card and you're like, actually, I'm at a point right now where I'm giving myself the choice to either think good things or think bad things, and do good things or do bad things, whatever, etc., etc. And basically the choice point, so I'm gonna X this point out now. I had this whole thing in like Paint. I was gonna manually do this, but I spent like 4 hours trying to edit that video. Not effective by any means. So again, here's the Act Triflex. You can all, dive into it even more, or mention it in the comments, or feel free to DM me on Twitter or contact me however, and we could talk more about this, because I really do enjoy talking about Act and the choice point and such. But so here's the choice point. I'm gonna dive deeper into it here through this image, and these aren't my images. I'm not like masking the URLs or anything, so like credit to where credit is due and all that jazz. So here it takes the triflex and the hexaflex and categorizes into the 4 areas of the choice point. So step 1, what are the challenging situation, thoughts, and feelings in your life today? You have your situation, thoughts, feelings here. And then when you get hooked by your thoughts and feelings, what kind of things do you do that make you behave unlike the person you want to be? So what are you doing that's not helping you or making things worse? And like, obviously this is within reason, and it has to be relative to the situation, thoughts, and feelings. So like, if your problem is you're trying to go to the gym, but you don't feel comfortable in your own body, a problem wouldn't be that you're watching too much TV, unless you're not getting enough sleep and then you're getting baggy eyes or something. But you get the point. One of the prime things, yeah, basically you get the point there. So next, you unhook here in the section of the choice point. What kind of moves are you making, or are you going to start making, to act effectively, to behave like the person you want to be? And then, okay, you get to the last point here. So is it okay to take time to explore what matters to you, who you care about, help figure out what those moves are, and work on developing some of these unhooking skills so they don't hold you back or pull you off? So again, the idea isn't to get rid of the thoughts or feelings or anything. It's to accept them for what they are, and then to diffuse. That way, they're not necessarily affecting your behavior or your decision making in a way that you're hooked. So yeah, I feel like I don't want to keep repeating myself to the point in which I'm droning off a mute point, but I think I've covered it enough to the point in which y'all are starting to get the basics of it, and that's enough. That's good for me to move the conversation forward. Again, by any means, I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything like that. I'm just trying to introduce y'all to something super cool and an element that I think would really help us fulfill our lives in the future, and it has honestly changed my life. So hopefully it makes a difference in yours too as well. All right. Now, next you have the Act Hexaflex, and this is a really cute picture. I found it on Twitter. Act Auntie. I don't even know who this is, but this is adorable. I am a bit of a dork. I'm on top of being a nerd and a geek. I'm also very dorky, but this is right up my alley. Like this is awesome. So I don't know who Act Auntie is, but I just found out while picking up some images for today's video, and she came up. So shout out to Act Auntie and these cute little bunnies. But here's the Act Hexaflex, and as you can tell, it takes the triflex and instead of a triangle, it's a hexagon because again, the hexagon is the bestagon, and it gives you that psychological flexibility that you really want, and that's really what Act does. It gives you that flexibility, that psychological flexibility to not let your thoughts and feelings control you, to be human, but a higher end human to the point in which you're not absorbed, if that makes sense. So here's this beautiful little image here, and in the Act Hexaflex we have diffusion, self as context, committed action, values, contact with present moment, and acceptance. So all this stuff that I had covered in the triflex, but it's a little bit expanded, and the triflex is really just the hexaflex, but distilled down into a triangle. I prefer the hexaflex, but the triangle is an easier way to introduce the concepts. And now, given all the stuff that I've said, I think the hexaflex kind of makes a bit more sense. So Act has 6 core processes. It's contact with the present moment, diffusion, acceptance, self as context, values, and committed action. So contact with the present moment is flexibility, paying attention to your experience in the moment. You want to narrow, broaden, shift, do whatever to your focus, depending on what's useful. And that can involve anything. So, for example, it can involve consciously paying attention to the physical world around us or the psychological world, both at the same time, but it's relative, different for folks and situations, but essentially it allows you to connect and engage in your experience as a human. Next, you have diffusion, and or I guess you're gonna hop here. I'm just gonna do diffusion here. It's in the order of the book, but the hexaflex is a tad diff. But so diffusion, that's learning to step back. You separate, detach from your thoughts, your memories, whatever, and you watch how you're thinking. Instead of like actively thinking, and you step away from it. That's one of the beauties about being human. I've kind of started to think about, if as I'm growing older, I think it's that level of consciousness that we're allowed to think about our own thoughts and figure out why we're thinking that way. And that's what diffusion is really all about. So you step back, you step away, and instead of getting tangled in your thoughts, right? So go back to when I was at the bar. Like, say I'm in the bar, I got my beer in hand, I'm so nervous. All I can think about are my nerves and how all the things can be bad. Instead, step away and you look at your thoughts for what they really are, and that's just that. They're just thoughts. There's nothing more than words or pictures there. So instead of holding them so tightly, we loosen up our grip, hold them lightly, and allow them to guide us rather than dominate us, if that makes sense. Next, you have acceptance. That's opening up, making room for those unwanted experiences. However, you're also, by doing that, the positive components of yourself are the main primary components there. You're just opening it up to these thoughts because, again, you can't get rid of them because we're human. So you accept and you open up these thoughts, feelings, emotions. Sometimes they're memories, urges, images, impulses, whatever. Instead of fighting them or resisting or running or whatever, allow them to just flow, be free, and let them come and stay as they choose. Next, you got self as context. 2 distinct elements. Remember, it's the mind, the part of us that is thinking, and then the second part, which is the part that notices, and I had mentioned that earlier. And next, afterwards, as you can tell, the concept in the triflex and the hexaflex are the same, and so you're starting to get the idea here. And the more I say it, the more I start to realize, yes, this is awesome. So next you got values, and that's what you value, the desired qualities of physical or psychological action. So let's say for me, like going to the gym, it'd be lifting weights and not caring about the people looking at me, because I know they don't care. Like, so there's that value of me being able to say, yeah, I don't care about people looking at me at the gym, so I'm going to go to the gym. People looking at me is not going to stop me. That's me moving forwards and being productive, and the more you go and do that, the bigger you get, and I got to go get those gains. And with that, you have committed action, and that's taking the effective action guided by your values in both physical and psychological. So when you get committed to that action, not only are you doing something physically, so like in the example of going to the gym, not only are you going to the gym, but the psychological component of that, of, yeah, I don't care that people are watching me while I'm lifting my weights, that psychological component is in there as well. And that's part of that committed action. So it's all well and good to know our values, but again, it's only through action that your life becomes rich, full, and meaningful. So that's why it's twofold. That's why committed action has the cognitive, like psychological thought component, but also the action point in it. So committed action, essentially distilled down, is doing what it takes to live by the values, even when that brings difficult thoughts and feelings. So even though I'm going to the gym, it's not like those thoughts and feelings are going away. I'm going to go and hit my rowing machine, and I'm still going to think to myself, people are watching me. It's just a matter of, for me, I don't care, because I know that they're not actually watching. Like, nobody cares that I'm on the rowing machine, if that makes sense. So that's committed action. Now, that's ACT. That's acceptance and commitment therapy. That's the choice point. That's the hexaflex, the triflex, and all distilled down. This is critical core processes of ACT that are really awesome, and they help you overcome resistance, and honestly, it makes you gives you motivation, even if you're unmotivated. Using the choice point and ACT, you can become motivated. And I gave a couple of examples in there. I'm sure they weren't the best examples, but they were just the first ones that popped into my head. And hopefully y'all got something from this. I'm going to put this in my blog post, but I want all credit to go to ACT Auntie. And yeah, she's got her tag here, so I'm going to snag that, save that, and we'll embed that into the blog post, because this is a great image just as a reminder, and it really details the components of the hexaflex as well. And hopefully I did my job. I was able to move the conversation forward with ACT, and y'all learned a little bit about ACT and how you can better yourselves through the choice point and practicing acceptance and commitment to yourself and investing in yourself by using tools like the choice point and living a fuller, fulfilled life. And yeah, so I'm Jester James, and you've been in the castle. I wish you all the best, and I hope y'all got something from it. Shoot me a tweet at Jester James with 3s. Comment down below, or comment wherever. All the things at Jester James, J3ST3RSJAM3S, Jester James with 3s. Thanks, and you've been listening to the Jester's Castle.